Good morning and good evening. Welcome to Sri Aurobindo and Mother Study Circle, where currently we are studying the passages of a compilation by Dr. A S Dalal, and the name is Looking from Within. So, invoking Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's presence and grace as we continue with the exploration of their words, and aspiring and praying for further expansion and the transference of these things that we come to know of, these pearls of wisdom, these forces into our everyday practical life, so that I can change, I can progress, I can transform, I can transcend. Thank you. Yeah. So this is what we had covered last time. The title is The Meaning of Circumstances. And today we are supposed to start from the true sense. So we can take the whole thing, or if it feels heavy, we can stop in between. If you have the capacity, Ritu, you can read. Otherwise, I'll go.
Yeah, from the true sense, from here.
Yeah, from the true sense.
The true sense of the guidance becomes clearer when we can go deep within and see from there more intimately the play of the forces and receive intimations of the will behind them. The surface mind can get only an imperfect glimpse. When we are in contact with the divine or in contact with an inner knowledge and vision, we begin to see all the circumstances of our life in a new light and can observe how they all tended, without our knowing it, towards the growth of our being and consciousness, towards the work we had to do, towards some development that had to be made, not only what seemed good, fortunate, or successful, but also the struggles, failures, difficulties, upheavals. But with each person, the guidance works differently according to his nature, the conditions of his life, his caste of consciousness, his stage of development, his need of further experience. We are not automata, but conscious beings, and our mentality, our will, and its decisions, our attitude to life and demand on it, our motives and movements help to determine our course. They may lead to much suffering and evil, but through it all, the guidance makes use of them for our growth in experience and consequently the development of our being and consciousness. All advance by however devious ways, even in spite of what seems going backwards or going astray, gathering whatever experience is necessary for the soul's destiny. When we are in close contact with the divine, a protection can come which helps or directly guides or moves us. It does not throw aside all difficulties, sufferings, or dangers, but it carries us through them and out of them, except where for a special purpose there is a need of the opposite. Sri Aurobindo.
Yeah, thank you. So in continuation of last week when we were reading about, circumstances, so it takes us further. Hi, Thea. So the true sense of guidance becomes clearer when we can go deep within and see from there more intimately the play of forces and receive intimations of the will behind them. We were told in the last passage, last para, that how we are guided. But we don't know, right? We see things for what they are. We see the superficial events and happenings. And with our limited understanding and transitory eyes, right? We see what we can see, very superficial and just what is happening we see. We usually don't see the events of things or where this is leading us to. So the true sense of the guidance becomes clearer when we can go deep within and see from there more intimately the play of the forces and receive intimations of the will behind them. I think here also, when we have to move from, say, we have to be directed by the purpose of our lives. So if the purpose is growth, evolution, progress, if the purpose is advancing in our journey, spiritual journey, then things make more sense. We see what helped me, how it helped me where. But if the purpose is settlement, comfort, sense of security, then we might not be able to agree with that. So the surface mind can get only an imperfect contact, and that is like there's no other if and but about it. That the surface mind, the mind that we use to see things, it can only get an imperfect glimpse. We can only see so much as we can see. We have narrow visions, we have tunnel visions. And I think we have said that before, like say when Anita Murjani spoke about her NDE and a few others, when I've heard about, higher experiences. So mostly it's like, how, again, just using Anita Murjani's reference, that she had mentioned that usually when we see life, it's like we have a torch and we are in a huge warehouse, we have a torch and we are trying to make sense of things, that wherever we see light, we say, oh, this is life, this is life. But when she crossed the barrier of the body for a little time, she felt as if the whole warehouse was lit and she could see how things are making sense. Somehow it reminded me also of, how when we speak about, the Gita, when Arjun was shown the Virat roop of Krishna, of how the things work, then it makes more sense, right? What is coming in, what is going out when you see how the workings are happening. But with my eyes, with my mind, with my eyes, I see limited. With my mind, what I'm seeing gets translated again into limited. So knowing this, it personally helps me in not, taking things bigger than they are, to always have that doubt, to always have that, I don't know, room for allowing error and growth and progress. And otherwise, it's like, I know. So this I know, it needs to be hit and it gets hit. So when we are in contact with the divine or in contact with an inner knowledge and vision, we begin to see all the circumstances of our life in a new light and can observe how they all tended without our knowing it towards the growth of our being and consciousness, towards the work we had to do, towards some development that had to be made, not only what seemed good fortunate or successful, but also the struggles, failures, difficulties, upheavals. So, very simple, and yet we usually don't believe this. But, like it said, that when one is in contact with the divine or in contact with an inner knowledge and vision, when we by grace, when we are able to see how things are working, when we can see truly where my growth is, then we begin to see all the circumstances of our life in a new light. And we can see how, that seemingly hard time, that challenge, that slap, that slip, that trauma, how it led me towards where I needed to be. Only today I was reading somewhere those cartoons come now of bears and I don't know, rabbit. There's a two characters. So in that, I think the bear or the rabbit says, I wish I could meet the stars. And the other one says, why? What would you do? And he said that I want to ask them, like, what all they had to go through to burn so bright. And that's true for all of us. Yeah. Good morning, Sham. So, taking a pause here, any reflections, any questions, comments on the first section? Yeah, so we'll proceed. It's quite simple this time. I mean, not that simple to implement, but at least to make sense of in our limited understanding. So, but with each person, the guidance works differently according to his nature, the conditions of his life, his caste of consciousness, his stage of development, his need of further experience. So, how we say there's no formula, there's no one thing that works for all, and there's no one thing that works for you every time. I remember I heard something quite nice, it was quite revelatory. How if we have ever had any special experience or a vision or something, we kind of want it again. So mother said it will never come the same way again, but we keep repeating what we did, and that never happens that way. So that's for one person. But here it says, but with each person, and that's the twist, that's the masala, that's the adventure, that's the excitement, the thrill, the diversity, the way things happen. Lot of similarities, yet lot of differences. But with each person, the guidance works differently according to his nature, the conditions of his life, his caste of consciousness, his stage of development, his need of further experience. So we are not automata, but conscious beings. So things are not just happening mechanically for us. They are not happening in automation because we are conscious beings, and our mentality, our will, and its decisions, our attitude of life and demand on it, our motives and movements help to determine our course. They may lead to much suffering and evil, but through it all, the guidance makes use of them for our growth in experience and consequently the development of our being and consciousness. The knowing that for all of us things work in different ways because we are not, machines. We react to things differently. Our wills are different, mentalities, consciousness, attitudes, demands, motive, movements. So they shape things for us, and that's why the same thing, the same situation, if this was true, if everything was supposed to be the same, then especially we would see in siblings, they would have very similar lives, very similar beliefs, but that doesn't happen even for twins. There are a lot of times, a lot of diversities and variations because we all have our individual way we are taking things. The same thing might be happening to, I don't know, 5,000 different people, and they would react in 5,000 different ways. They would narrate what happened to them maybe in 5,000 different ways. I remember once, AP Acharya Prashant had shared that if I, and he said it as a fact, that if I were to tell you something, like say if I've been speaking for an hour or 30 minutes, and now if I tell you, all of you to take this paper and write the 10 main things I said, he said that all of you would write things differently, all of you would like write very diverse points. And he would say the shocking thing is, and he had experiment with it again and again, that a lot of what you write I would not have even said, but you perceived it. You felt I said that through what I said. So a glimpse of it, I also keep getting. Sometimes I'm saying something that I'm saying it would not happen, or this is not how it does does that or does it. And next time if I meet the same person, they're like, but you said that this is how it works, and that gave me courage. I find that pretty amazing that if that person had to get some courage in a different way, and I know I didn't say it, but they took it and it worked for them. So it's very amazing how we catch what we need to catch if we want to grow and progress. And of course, for a downfall too. A lot of fights we happen, a lot of differences, not we happen, but that happened with us or to us, because we perceive things that me, मेरे को बोला, मेरे साथ करा, मेरे साथ हुआ. So the main thing of all things, the me, that kind of makes the diversity and the differences and the perceptions more. So we're just rereading it, that we are not automata, but conscious beings, and our mentality, our will and its decisions, our attitude to life and demand on it, our motives and movements help to determine our course. They may lead to much suffering and evil, but through it all, the guidance makes use of them for our growth in experience and consequently the development of our being and consciousness. So they are all towards our growth in experience and the development of our being and consciousness. Like Mother says, thy victory is certain, and we all know we have to reach it. But if we, kind of get on with it, if we are helping our growth, if we are not our own stumbling block, which we mostly are, then the progress is faster. Otherwise, it's slower, but progress we will, and it depends on us how much we are cooperating and understanding and open to expanding. So, all advance by however devious ways, even in spite of what seems a going backwards or going astray, gathering whatever experience is necessary for the soul's destiny. So, I would not know what is forward, what is backwards. I'm incapable of knowing this. So all advance by however devious ways, even in spite of what seems like is going backwards or going astray, gathering whatever experience is necessary for the soul's destiny. When we are in close contact with the divine, a protection can come which helps or directly guides or moves us. It does not throw aside all difficulties. I felt this was a very uh, good thing to note for us, that it does not throw aside all difficulties, sufferings, or dangers, but it carries us through them. There are so many tales. I think of one is of Surdas, that, when he was like, of course, he was blind and then he was really sick. and I guess he had diarrhea or something. And he was all alone. But then there was a small boy who came and started helping him, cleaning him, giving him some water and stuff. And he held on to the boy and he said, I know who you are. And the boy said, okay, if you know who I am, like, of course, Krishna, then what? So he said that if you are here and you are helping me and you are the God, so why don't you stop it so that you don't have to do this? Like, why would I want you to help me with all this? So he said, no, you have to go through whatever it is. If this is something that you have to go through, you have to. I can help you, but there are certain things you have to go through. So it does not throw aside all difficulties, sufferings, or dangers, but it carries us through them. And what is more beautiful, right? And out of them, except where for a special purpose, there's a need of the opposite. There's a very beautiful story in Christianity also, right? That when I look back in the sand, I could see that, wherever my life was more challenging, I saw there was just one step of footsteps, otherwise there were two. So God, they said, was walking with me, except in the times of very great need and suffering. So I asked God that, why did you, isolate me during that time? And the answer was that during those times, my child, I was carrying you. So the two footsteps are mine because I was carrying you. So even if something bad, seemingly bad happens, suffering happens, difficulties come, which seems very big, more than what we can handle, there has to be a certainty that there is a special purpose, there is a need of the opposite. Now, I don't want to get into all the details, but this also reminds me that when I had that near death experience, and I remember maybe I shared that, I had conversations, I have memories of having conversations with faceless people and fighting that, keep me and, send my brother back, that he's needed more. So he kept saying that, but this is not what we decided, but this is not what we decided, this is not how it would happen. So it's really strange that how things are decided and yet we forget everything. And of course, the forgetfulness is there because otherwise we won't learn, we won't grow if we know this is all a drama. So it, the Leela appears as Maya, and so that we can go with the up and down fully and till the time when we can see through it. I don't know if that made any sense the way I shared, but yeah, a lot of things are decided and we don't know about that. So that was the main thing. So, but just this certitude, the things are taking me somewhere, and the title was The Meaning of Circumstances, that all my circumstances are taking me towards my growth, toward greater progress, which is the purpose of a human birth, and not just ambition and achievements and comforts in our everyday worlds, which we think is the purpose. So we have completed this passage, this para today. So there's more, but before that, if there's anything, any reflection, anything you liked or anything you were surprised to hear, if there's something you would want to talk, we can unmute and share. Otherwise, I'll go on further.
Taru, just a
Hi.
question.
Yeah, Dia, would you
Please
want to
go
go
ahead.
first? No, why don't you go? You had unmuted first. You can go and then Sham will go. We have time.
So, very good reminder that our chasing our ambitions is not our only goal. This is what we are also seeking, and this is also a purpose of our life. Talking about the previous portion where you mentioned that the consciousness, we are not only on a auto mode, but there is a consciousness within us. Very often we forget that acting out of consciousness, and we tend to go to an auto mode. Okay. So for speaking about myself, I although these are the things that we already know, but that does happen that we suddenly, I mean, with any kind of day-to-day activity or being busy in our work, we tend to go in auto mode. So any practices or any daily things that you suggest that might help us move out of auto mode or acting out of consciousness instead of acting out of how we have already done?
Yeah. What do you think, Dia? What if you have to make some suggestions to somebody, what would you say?
I would think just a reminder for ourselves that what we are having a checkpoints, that what we are doing on a daily basis,
Yeah. And
keeping
how
a
would we
journal,
do that? Like, how do we know what we are doing on a daily basis?
keeping a journal, or some break for ourselves that might help us reflect what we are actually doing.
Yeah. So, how do we do it on a more conscious basis? By becoming more aware. You know, this is what we call mindfulness in fancy terminologies, but being more present. When do we go in the auto mode? When we are not present to the present, right? The body is here, but the mind is always
Yeah,
somewhere else.
yeah. Or might be when we are very clueless about things going on.
Yeah. So why do we get clueless? When we are not there, when we are lost, right? Then usually we are
Yeah,
lost with a chain of thought, or we are just following a certain set of conditionings, expectations, just running the rat race because everybody is running. So when we take pauses, when we ask ourselves, if this is something I want to do, what is this giving me? Do I even want this? You know? So those pauses, those questions, little bit practices of mindfulness, like how we say sometimes we say, okay, let's breathe, right? Let's be our breath for the next 2 minutes.
yeah,
So, yeah, so everything that we do for being more conscious, for being more mindful, for staying with the body, because the body is always in the present moment, all those practices I can think of. Okay, where are, you know, sometimes it's like I ask myself, where are you? Where are you? Kind of, and then I'm like, oh, I'm here, I'm here. You know, I actually do that sometimes when I find myself lost, and I
yeah,
quickly come back. Yeah. And then I
yeah.
get
Thank you.
lost again. Yeah, thank you, dear. Yeah, Sham, please.
Yeah, well, Taru, you said that it is all Leela of Almighty and things like that. So why do bad things happen to good people? Means people who have done nothing and people who are really great in every sense, but they also have to go through a lot of trials in their life.
May I just add a thing before Taru starts?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Yeah, so it reminds me of a video that I had shared last week about Acharya Prashant. He had explained it quite well why bad things happen to good people. He says that आपको अपनी अच्छाई की सजा नहीं, आपकी बेहोशी की सजा मिली है. That means it's not that you are punished for your goodness, but for your unawareness, probably. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, dear. So, Sham, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you, dear. But, and in addition, like, you know, what we were reading, Sham, so how he said that what I think is bad is not always bad. You know, in the larger scheme of things, it said there is no bad, right? By my suffering, my pain, I wake up. By my stumbling, my world is perfected or the world is perfected. So, first thing is that I don't know good from bad with my narrow vision. And this is, you know, how the passage actually started today. You kind because you were a bit late. So just going there for through for you, sorry. So it says the surface mind, if you see the red highlighted in red, the surface mind can get only an imperfect glimpse. So when we are in contact with the divine or in contact with an inner knowledge and vision, we begin to see all the circumstances of our life in a new light and can observe how they are tended without our knowing it towards the growth of our being and consciousness. So, firstly, what I get is that I don't know what is good, what is bad, and I don't know unless I get conscious that how the seemingly bad is also there for my own good. And secondly, if we talk about the karma theory, don't know too much about it, and yet what I know from the surface, it's like you just see things, we just see things, for this birth. Okay, I know this person is very good, this person deserves the best, and see this is happening. But I don't know what the person has chosen to experience this time. I don't know what all things he had to experience to transcend certain things. So there's a lot of carry forward, right? So that carry forward also directs certain things. So that also we have to pay attention to. The first, of course, this good people, bad people. This is my definition in my limited mind. And good thing, bad thing is also my definition because of my limited mind, narrow vision, that I don't see things for what they are. And a lot of times, traumatic, seemingly traumatic things happen, and it feels that, dunya khatam ho gayi and the whole families and the cities are destroyed. And yet there is a purpose for everything. Even say for Buddhism, how badly, how cruelly, how traumatically the things that happened were done in Tibet by the Chinese. But how they were so concentrated, how so just in that country the whole wisdom was just nestled and I don't know, limited, and how they were thrown out and then it spread through the world, possibly, probably causing so much more good than what they could do just in Tibet. But that's just me just thinking aloud. But we just see things in a very limited way, but there's always more. Like we see the tip of the iceberg and not the full mountain of ice that we are seeing the tip of. But if you have, like, I know this, I don't know if this gave any light. We can talk more about it if you would like, if you have anything else to add.
Tadu, so it is a function of our past life karmas also.
It would be, right? It could be, it would be. But more importantly, I feel that I don't know the good from bad. So when I say this was bad, I don't know whether it was bad or not. Like so many people, when they have had like traumatic things happen to them, physical ailments and everything. Ritu had once shared, a beautiful movie by Ram Das. I don't know what was the name, Going Home or something, Coming Home. So that too, when he was paralyzed, he said that how much that added to his journey, to his progress. Ritu, would you like to share a bit on that?
Yeah, that was by Ramdas only, Going Home. So Ramdas was follower of Indian mystique, and he had a very adventurous
I
life in
think
the sense
Neem
that
Karoli Baba, na? That
Neem Karogi Baba. So he had a very adventurous life in the sense that he was really, really well educated, and then he was a professor in Harvard and Stanford, and he was also researching on psychedelics. Is that what is called, Taru? Psychedelics, the drugs and all. So he went through these altered states of mind while researching on these chemicals. So he felt that he was in these altered states of mind while he was taking those chemicals. So that means there is an altered state of mind. And when he went to different countries, just getting some answers which he had in his mind. Then he came across Neem Karoli Baba, and then he, through meditations and through the other practices, he was able to achieve a lot of different states of mind. And then he wrote a lot of books about his experiences and also about death. And he thought that he was helping people by writing all these books, and by guide he was guiding them, and people were coming and asking him questions. So he had written a book called How Can I Help You? And then later, during his old age, he got paralysis, and he was so dependent on people that everything he had to do, even a small little thing, he had to seek the support and help of his friends and family and his followers. So then he in that documentary he wrote that earlier I had written a book, How Can I Help You? And now I think it should be like, How Can You Help Me? So he said having paralysis kind of completely, although he was very knowledgeable earlier also, but then having paralysis gave him a different perspective of life. So he said that it's not that I wish that people have such experiences, but then having such experiences is also so important in life, because then they kind of show you things in a different way. And he said that sometimes when people come to me and they're very upset and depressed and sad, and I see that yes, they are really really sad, and I want to help them by making them less sad, or by sharing what they're going through. But at the same time, I also at the same time parallelly I know that this is what is going to help them. That pain, that sudden jerk in their life which they have going through right now, I should be consoling them or being with them or telling them that it's okay, don't worry. But at the same time, I know that this worrying and this period of their life is giving them a different, what they have not experienced before, maybe a different um, opening or something. So it's just that if we are studying in class 8 and then something bad really happens to us, so it's like getting promoted to class 9 through that experience. It's like an exam. So he beautifully explained it in that documentary. Yeah. And also that Samrajji's, no, this Sri Aurobindo's only, na? That pain is the hammer of God which breaks the dead resistance in a mortal's heart. So same thing which just Diya shared, Sri Acharya Prashant Singh, that it's just that you are not aware. So we get so probably we get so engrossed in what we are doing that we need a jerk. So maybe that is what, although I say it, but I still don't really understand it. And I remember Taru, when we come to the US and we went for a long road trip. So the trip used to be, I mean, the driving used to be so comfortable that you told me that people sleep sometimes because it's so comfortable. The roads are so good and the highway is so nice, unlike India. And then there's a strip of jerks, tuck, 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 that in case you've slept off, you wake up. So I think it's something similar. Like we get so engrossed and so busy and so unaware that we need a few jerks.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And not a few jerks, a lot of jerks, because our sleep and our slumber is too much, right? It's too deep. So, yeah. So, I think it all comes down to the thing that why are we here, right? If we believe truly that we are just this body, just this name, just this title, just this member of this family, and my life right now is all there is. So with if I live here, everything seems too good or too bad and bigger than life. But if I step back and if I can see the magnanimity of my being, if I can see that, okay, I'm just passing through here. And in Upanishads, the most common example they use, Ritu, and you must have heard of it, that when we are having a good dream, we sleep even more, but it's the nightmare that wakes us up. And that's true. That's an experience for all of us, that when we get nightmares, we wake up. So right now we live as if we are sleeping. We are sleeping to our potentialities, towards our growth, towards who I am. So then I have to get a few hits, a few wake up calls, more than a few, actually numerous wake up calls, that wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. You came here for a purpose, and the purpose was growth of consciousness, and it wasn't titles and finances and achievements, worldly achievements, or seeking for settlement and comfort. But it's hard for us to fully believe that, because everybody almost around us is running towards these things, but we will believe it one day, hopefully soon. Yes, Sham, if you want to, give me an example or something, if you still feel a bit stuck on this, we can take it up further.
Largely, you have answered my question, Taru.
Okay. Yeah.
It's only that we are not able to see the other angles,
Yeah.
and we are too confined to something too limited.
Yeah.
Like JK says in one of his video lectures, that we are not able to jerk off our conditioning, our background, and all that, and so we are not able to see the larger picture.
Absolutely. So we still have time. We can go further. Again, a reminder that we are taking number 9, the meaning of circumstances. We read a passage from Sri Aurobindo, and now maybe there would be one from the mother. Yeah. So let's read this. Maybe we can take one paragraph at one time, or if it's too simple, we can take more. So if anybody has the capacity, they can read it. Otherwise, I'll go. Yeah, so I'll read it then. When you are in a particular set of circumstances and certain events take place, these events often oppose your desire or what seems best to you, and often you happen to regret this and say to yourself, ah, how good it would have been if it were otherwise, if it had been like this or like that. For little things and big things, then years pass by, events are unfolded, you progress, become more conscious, understand better, and when you look back, you notice, first with astonishment, then later with a smile, that those very circumstances which seem to you quite disastrous or unfavorable were exactly the best thing that could have happened to you to make you progress as you should have. And if you are the least bit wise, you tell yourself, truly the divine grace is infinite. Yeah, so I don't think it needs any elaboration. It just, again, what we were just discussing, that I see things in a very limited way. I have desires, preferences, and when things don't go my way, small things, big things, how if they don't go my way, I say, oh, acha nahi hua, this wasn't good, this wasn't fair, or why did this happen? But So, later when I progress, when I'm more expanded, when I can see things, and when I can see where that event, that happening took me, I realize, first with astonishment, then with a smile, that the disastrous, unfavorable thing was exactly the best thing that could have happened to me to make me progress as I should have. And truly, you tell yourself, truly the divine grace is infinite. That's very promising and beautiful. And we touch that space, I know. We see the goodness in a lot of bad things. Yet, because it's painful, we don't agree to it. But I don't think any of us would not have seen this. So if anything needs any attention, please do let me know. Otherwise, we can go forward. It's quite self-explanatory, I think, but of course, happy to reflect. So we'll go further. So when this sort of thing has happened to you a number of times, you begin to understand that in spite of the blindness of man and deceptive appearances, the grace is at work everywhere, so that at every moment it is the best possible thing that happens in the state the world is in at that moment. It is because our vision is limited, or even because we are blinded by our own preferences, that we cannot discern that things are like this. So just rereading. So when this sort of things has happened to you a number of times, there has to be a repetition, because otherwise I don't see it. I would not believe it. This goes so much against my sense of, how good and bad. But when these things happen a number of times, then I begin to understand that in spite of the fact that I couldn't see, things were deceptive, the grace is at work everywhere, so that at every moment it is the best possible thing that happens in the state the world is in at that moment. And it's difficult to accept that, right? Because seemingly so much bad has happened in our history, so much bad is happening today, we feel that. And yet it is being said that the grace is at work everywhere, there's a reason for everything. And at every moment, it is the best possible thing that happens in the state that the world is in. And it is because our vision is limited, or because we are blinded by our own preferences, that we cannot discern that things are like this. But when one begins to see it, one enters upon a state of wonder which nothing can describe. For behind the appearances, one perceives this grace, infinite, wonderful, all powerful, which knows all, organizes all, arranges all, and leads us where we like it or not, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, towards the supreme goal, that is union with the divine, the awareness of the Godhead and union with Him. So when one begins to see it, then things start making more sense. We see that what I was thinking as a bad thing, how it turned out to be my greatest blessing. For behind the appearances, one perceives this grace, infinite, wonderful, all powerful, which knows all, organizes all, arranges all, leads us, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, towards the supreme goal. And what is that goal? Union with the divine, the awareness of the Godhead, and union with Him. But because this is not my goal, so the things that are taking me towards this appear to be harsh, cruel, unnecessary. Because goal ही मैंने गलत पकड़ा हुआ है, इसीलिए it seems that life is going, topsy-turvy and is not making sense. So if I have to go in a separate, specific direction and it feels life is taking me somewhere else, I would struggle. कि मुझे तो वहाँ जाना है, मुझे तो वहाँ जाना है, not knowing that my goal is the other way around and I'm going towards my goal. So it's very visual. I feel it's very beautifully said. And if I could believe this, if I could have faith in this, that one is knowing all and one is being led, not in a passive way, but very active way, a lot of my strugglings and complaint and fighting against things would stop. So just completing this. So then one lives in the action and presence of the grace, a life full of joy, of wonder, with the feeling of a marvelous strength, and at the same time with a trust so calm, so complete, that nothing can shake it any longer. So if one is aware of this, the union, that this is my goal, so it's being said that then one lives in the action and presence of grace, a life full of joy, of wonder, with the feeling of a marvelous strength, and at the same time with the trust so calm, so complete, that nothing can shake it any longer. And when one is in the state of perfect receptivity and perfect adherence, one diminishes to that extent the resistance of the world to the divine action. Consequently, this is the best collaboration one can bring to the action of the divine. One understands what he wants, and with all one's consciousness adheres to his will. So just rereading the last paragraph. And when one is in the state of perfect receptivity, so right now when I receive, I don't receive things as they are. I see them through my glasses of preferences and what I think good, bad is. But when I am able to receive the things in perfect receptivity and perfect adherence, I am able to adhere to them, one diminishes to that extent the resistance of the world to the divine action. I've said this before and I find it pretty amazing. AP had shared once that मुझे तुम्हें आग से बचाने के लिए तुमसे ही लड़ना पड़ता है. And it's like we have so many examples. When somebody is drowning, they say that unless you know swimming very well, don't try to help, because the way they'll grab onto you, you only will drown. So I am standing in my own way. I am the wall around myself. So when I am not that anymore, when I'm able, when one is in, when I am in that perfect receptivity and perfect adherence, one diminishes to that extent the resistance of the world to the divine action. Consequently, this is the best collaboration one can bring to the action of the divine. So collaborating with him so that we can make the things faster, easier for myself. So, best collaboration one can bring to the action of the divine. One understands what he wants, and with one's consciousness, all one's consciousness adheres to his will. And that very popular aphorism that may your will be done and not mine. And it surprises me that even in the Friday study circle, the topic was will, and it was about this adherence to his will, that first one has to develop a will, a strong will, so that one can offer it to the divine. And without a strong, clear will, I'm not even a being, it was said. That what life am I living? Just a bag of conditioning. If I don't even have my will that this is what I want and the right reasons for it. So, there's more on this because I think we really take circumstances very seriously, and we take them and we go quite astray that why is this happening? Why is that happening? But pausing here for any reflections, comments, questions. It was so beautiful. So, in Thoughts and Aphorisms of Sri Aurobindo. So, O misfortune, blessed be thou, for through thee I have seen the face of my lover. Yasha, would you like to reflect on this line? What does this mean to you?
Yeah, Taru, that misfortune when they come now, they make us see things in a different light. Like in Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, the Rashmi Rathi, there is a poem na. I don't remember the lines, I'm sorry, but मन को तोड़ती मरोड़ती है विघ्न जब आती है, something like that. I don't remember exactly. So when misfortune does come, they help us to do active resignation to the will of Almighty, not passive. Otherwise, we see misfortune in a different light. We see मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है and मुझे क्यों परेशान कर रहा है and things like that. But then Sufism also tells about the same thing, about Rida, that is resignation to the will of Almighty. So when misfortune comes, we do resign to the will of Almighty, at times actively, at times passively. And many a times we see that misfortune had come to wake me from the slumber, to wake me up from the slumber. And that Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, what he has said in his poem, that Vigna jab aati hai, sach hai man ko, I don't remember the lines, man ko murti torti, something like that.
Yeah, thank you. So it's being said in a very poetic and loving way that, oh misfortune, blessed be thou, that I'm blessing my misfortune, that through you I was able to see the face of my lover. Yes, Sham.
And Taru, initially we questioned that why me? Why am I being tortured and tormented, and why I have to go through all this topsy-turvy curvature of life, and why I am tempest tossed? Then from there we graduate to a stage that why not me? मैं क्यों से मैं क्यों नहीं तक हम जाते हैं.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah.
And then at a later point of time we say that जो हुआ अच्छे के लिए ही हुआ, अगर नहीं होता तो अगर, like in that movie also na, taxi number 9211, that at the end of the movie John Abraham says that जो हुआ अच्छे के लिए हुआ, बहुत सारे लोगों के चेहरे सामने आ गए.
Okay.
I hope you would have seen that movie.
Not
John
even
Abraham,
heard
Nana
the
Partikul.
name. Yeah. But good to know. But yeah, everything is saying the same thing. That, one thing is that we say this because we say the grapes were sour, right? अंगूर खट्टे थे तो हमने बोल दिया हमें खाने ही नहीं है. But actually, when one sees where one is being taken, or when one sees, like here it says, the face of a lover, that blessing to the misfortune would be heartfelt and coming from the depths within, and it would be a very meaningful blessing. Yes, Tia, please.
Yeah, I think this is also in the same line that Taru shared and also Ritu shared. After the jerks, we are able to get out of our slumber. So, if not anything else, on after the misfortune, we at least get to know the truth. What we get out of a misfortune is we actually can see the truth more clearly than we were able to see before.
Yeah. That is why, like, again, how even Sham was mentioning Sufism. There are so many masters, mystics, poets which have, which say that mujhe tu dukh dena, give me suffering, because when I'm suffering, when I'm in pain, it is then that I remember you. Because, we are not a unified being. There's so many living in me, one going forward, one going back, one going left, the other going right, but the parts of my being, one wanting to do this, the other saying, अरे तेरे से क्या होगा, छोड़ छोड़ इधर चल, या बैठ जा या सो जा. So it's very interesting how, yeah, I forgot what I was saying, but it's, yeah. So the second one also is really, again, very beautifully said, saying the same thing, but with more lot of beauty in it. That if through misfortune one sees the face of God, then it is no longer misfortune, is it? But because I don't often get pushed to see the face of God, instead I sit down and start crying at my misfortune and refuse to get up. And I keep, start sharing it with everybody that this happened, see this happened, see this happened. So I lose the purpose. So for me, misfortune is a misfortune because I'm crying and just look, fully immersed in it. But when I can see through it, what it was trying to teach me, when I can transcend, when I can see the face of God, then it is no longer misfortune and it's asking, is it? Because they say no matter what price you pay, it's less if it's taking you where you need to be in your progressive journey towards the soul, not just the body's thing. Yes, Sham, please.
Taru, and we evolve through our misfortune, okay?
I'm sorry, say that again. We
evolve through our
Yeah,
misfortune.
yeah.
Then we come to know that where we have faltered and uh, where our failings had been. And maybe we become somewhat more honest to ourselves, if not to the larger world.
Mm. Your question, the question that you asked, that why do bad things happen to good people? Do you see a different answer now?
Mm.
That bad things are happening to good people because, they want the good people to evolve more. That
Taru,
also is a mirror, right?
Taru, you need to allow me an hour's time to introspect and delve deeper into it.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be time well spent. So if it's okay, because we usually do spend 90 minutes, I don't know if we feel this is enough, we can stop. But if it's because it's light and easy today, at least from the understanding point of view, we might not fully agree. Should we take this further or should we stop here?
Yeah, Taru, do
I
you?
think we are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I said I think we are good.
Good to stop or good to go ahead? I am sorry, just.
Okay, I would be leaving now. Maybe
Okay.
you all can continue. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Taru, I wanted to ask you, do you know anybody who would actually ask for misfortunes?
You know, mother says not to ask for misfortunes, but not to, kind of make it into a drama when they comes. So they say never to ask. And I know even, I've heard it from other people, other sources too, that we don't need to wish for them. But if they come, we must face them bravely. So no, I don't personally know. I mean, I have seen people say this, okay, oh, when I know I'm in pain, I get so much more into it. I've heard this again and again, but I've not seen anyone personally, practically asking for it. Yeah.
But sometimes, it happens that even the pain does not break the resistance.
Yeah.
So I think the pain affecting you and breaking the resistance is also a blessing. I mean, first step is the pain, and the second step is that yes, it affects you in the right way.
Hmm. So if you are trying to break a box and you have a hammer and you're hitting the box, if it doesn't break in the first time, what do you do?
Yeah, try to do it again.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't break again and again, and maybe you'll get a bigger hammer, right?
Hmm.
And make it even harder, make the blows even stronger.
Or I might think that, okay, let me leave this box, try another box.
That they say usually doesn't happen. But this is the reason they say that when there's a ring, when there's a wake up call, small, small things when they are happening, if you wake up, you're intelligent. Because otherwise, if you don't wake up, just be ready, ke, then harder things would fall on you because you refuse to wake up, and refuse we all do because our sleeps are quite, deep and delicious. Yeah. So we would, I think, since Dia also has left, we'll end it here. We'll take it up next week. But before we go, in case there's anything else you want to talk about, we do have time. Otherwise, we can end now. We'll take it from there next time. Okay. So, ending the session and thanking Grace for this blessing to be able to hold this space, praying for expansion for myself and everyone, for a stronger will, for a greater clarity, and an aspiration to become more conscious and to be able to see things which often in our blindness we are unable to see. Praying and aspiring for myself and the whole world. Thank you.